and welcome back to the Whale Nerds Podcast. This is episode number 72. My name is Slater, and I'm here with Eric, Adam, and Caitlin.
Hi, everyone.
What's up?
Hello.
Happy International Women's Day, Caitlin.
Today or month? It's month.
It was like 3 days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, why did we not worship Caitlin 3 days ago, Adam?
Actually, it was 2 days ago.
Well, whatever day it was.
Anyways.
Because I didn't have any pictures of her to post.
You posted a video supporting all of us guys
The
over
three
here?
men on the podcast.
Listen, I didn't even think
Listen,
of
this
that,
is just
right?
what it's like to live a life as a woman.
Do like a Caitlyn tribute video, like a montage. Of, like,
Oh, dude, I should. I'll just go to your. I'll go to your Facebook and take a
I'm
bunch
gonna
of random
lurk
pictures.
on my social media.
do like
Yeah,
a Caitlyn slideshow, and then at the end, like some awesome footage of like a leatherback sea turtle.
Eric,
All right.
are you serious?
So sad.
All right, dude, let's hop right into this. Host updates. What do we got? Eric, you go first.
Me, I've been seeing tons of northbound gray whales at work. Casper's like showing up like days in a row. It's kind of
Yeah,
crazy.
you made it on the news about Casper, didn't you?
I saw
yeah.
that.
Yes.
Wow, Eric's a newsworthy gangsta.
But yeah, they talked about Casper and a little bit about what we think is going on with his genetics. We don't know if it's albinism or if he's leucistic. That's about it. And then, you know what? There were some humpbacks here, like 20 of them here a few days ago, and then they ninja vanished. So
Yeah.
hopefully they come back. Yeah.
Sounds like March in Monterey Bay. That happens
Yeah.
every year.
And then soon,
Did you see them, Eric, or no?
I didn't. I was off that day, but I went on the next day to go find them, and they literally ninja vanish. And now I'm just waiting for little gray whales to get eaten. So we'll see what happens.
That's what I heard, that the humpbacks came back by Andy. He told me that they were back in the bay, and then that was all I
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah, they literally just disappeared overnight. It was like,
That
hello?
happens every March.
Yeah, I didn't even check the hydrophone, so they might be offshore singing or something. Ow.
Nice.
So that is my latest report. But yeah, Monterey's good. A lot of gray whales. A lot.
Sick.
Sick.
Adam.
Owls and.
Oh my
muskrats.
God, guys! I'm out of the
Toad.
Ventura Harbor boatyard.
Yay! No
We're
boatyard.
out. Our
No more
boat.
bleeding and carcinogens.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It was so bad. I can't even imagine how many like A, brain cells, and B, years off my life I've lost because of the Ventura Harbor boatyard.
I mean, and that's in recent times. Imagine what it used to be like
Oh,
five decades ago.
I can't even imagine just like all the chemicals and stuff you breathe in. But yeah, we're out of the boatyard. We did 40 knots on our steed trial, which is pretty crazy. A 71-foot boat. A 71-foot boat hauling at 40 knots. I never thought that boat would go that fast. It was a little scary, to be honest, but it was pretty cool.
But you have full engine, right?
Yeah, we got four
Or
engines.
yeah.
So yeah,
You're never gonna run it
hauls.
that fast on a trip though.
No, I don't think we legally can. I think for the warranty, I think you need to run it under 30 knots for the first year. But even then, like 30 knots on that boat is just like
That's obscene.
it's obscene. And so like I'm psyched about it because like sometimes like you'll have a trip where like you get a report of like whales and you're kind of having a bad trip or whatever, and they're like, oh crap, it's like 20 miles away. Like
You guys
dude,
running yet?
30
You
knots,
guys
no
taking-
problem.
taking passengers
We would
yet?
be. We would be if the
Uh-huh.
weather wasn't such garbage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
like,
it's beautiful
literally-
here. It just rained like 10 minutes ago.
Ah, dude.
Yeah, we had a thunderstorm
The
last
first-
night. It was
we were
wonderful.
supposed to start on Monday the 8th, a few days ago, and every trip since then has been canceled because it's literally blowing like 35 knots in the channel. Like we've been doing boat work and stuff since then. So like even when I'm done with boat work, I still have more boat work.
It never ends. It never
ends. I know. But I was just looking at it and I was like, oh my God, like this is the worst I've seen it in a while. And it looks like it lets up a little bit tomorrow through the weekend. And then next week it just ramps right back up. So
Springtime.
Don't
still
talk
haven't
like
seen
that.
a whale. Yeah.
Don't talk like that.
Will you
It
run
better
this
be
weekend, you
nice.
think? Will you think you'll run this weekend?
Yeah, I hope so. Our boat's freaking full this weekend. I hope we can run.
Friday should be, well, down here at least, it should be okay. But you never know. It might be pretty sloshy just from the whole week of wind.
Yeah, but they have
Yeah.
a big boat, so they can handle that.
But I don't have a big boat.
Yeah, but also Dave's just like nervous about running the new boat.
You don't want to have a literal shakedown
huge
cruise with
boat.
passengers on.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you should put 10,000 pounds of weight in the bow. That'd be
Wow.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Dude, really? It really is only like Friday is good, kind of, and Saturday, and then Sunday is right back to wind.
That's what I'm saying. It seems like it's never. I was like,
You guys are so silly. We go out in 35 knots of wind every day in Maui.
Yeah,
You have
but
no
it
swell
flattens out
there.
it flattens out the ocean there.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, your weather is not looking good in Santa Barbara East Buoy at all.
oh no, dude.
Oh, of
That's-
course, my
Next week looks
birthday
pretty boring for you.
crap. Birthday
Yep.
crap
Dang.
weather.
So maybe I'll have
That's-
to come see Slater more.
Yeah.
I have a hydro flask for you somewhere.
Yeah, I know. What the heck?
You guys can cry together.
Wait,
Yeah.
Slater, your weather's good this weekend?
Friday and Saturday.
Hmm.
Wow, you coming out? You want to come out?
Eric's getting crazy.
Oh, I have the time off because I was doing my birthday trip, but where I want to go, it's snowing, and I don't want to freeze to death.
Oh.
Mm.
I was
Happy
gonna
birthday.
shoot-
Oh yeah, your birthday's in like a couple
I was gonna
days.
shoot wild horses, but
With
it's
your
gonna be like
camera.
20 degrees. Oh yeah, with my
That's
camera.
funny. My dad's going to photograph a horse today for some lady. It's getting really old, so she wants to get a picture of it.
Yeah, I'm looking for wild ones in Nevada, or some people call it Nevada.
I don't even think Eric even likes whales anymore. Name the last time he's been on a hunt for a whale or any cetacean. It's always land stuff.
There's badgers.
I've seen them all. I've seen most of them that I want to see. I just
Oh
need a-
yeah, have you seen a
right
North
whale?
Pacific right whale?
That's what I need. That and the basking shark. That's like my waters must-haves.
What about a bowhead whale?
Not yet, but I don't mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna see one.
You gonna go
Before I
all the way
die.
up there?
I'll get my own boat and drive it there.
Are you gonna paddleboard with one?
I'm gonna
Oh
cut it up.
my
You
gosh.
guys down
Have you
for a
seen
Greenland
those?
trip?
Have
Let's
you
do
seen
it.
those videos from
Those
Russia
videos
with
are
bowhead whales and
so
stuff?
bad.
What? They're
Yeah.
So
paddleboarding with
bad.
them?
Yeah,
Dude,
and they like
straight
freaking
paddleboard.
paddleboard over the top of them.
Uh,
Just like go right over the top of the back of the whale. You're like, dude, what?
Bad.
Was his name
Russian.
Rich? Oops.
No.
Southern
I haven't seen that
California
guy
got
in the
that.
water.
We gotta
long
cut.
time.
We gotta cut some of this episode out. It was funny.
No, man. And then like people are like swimming. You can swim with them. There's a place where you can like I think you even just like launch from shore, like you just get in at the beach and you can swim with them, but I don't know how regulated it is. I've definitely seen some videos where you're like, wow, that is
There's
not
a place
good.
in Canada. They actually have like rub boulders. They go to this boulder, like rub themselves on it.
Oh really? That'd be so cool to see.
There's a place in Canada.
I think I'm looking at that photo right now. Is there a paddleboard in the photo?
Yes.
Oh my
There's
gosh,
a video.
dude.
There's a video from it where
But
the
those-
guy.
I think most of those videos and photos are from Russia.
Yes. And
Yeah,
there's a
lady is
recent
paddleboarding with
posting.
it.
There's a recent posting somewhere where they said they were gonna really crack down on those regulations because it's kind of getting out of hand, from what I read.
Yeah. Kinda.
No,
I
it's
wish I could
definitely
put
getting
my
out of hand.
monitor around to show you guys these photos. They're crazy town.
Send them in the chat.
Just put them in the chat. Oh my god, click that link. So yeah,
I'm nervous.
Caitlin, what'd you see this week?
Lots of humpback whales.
Any
There was
turtle-
kind of like a weird lull where the whales kind of disappeared for like a week, and we still had some like really little calves, and so I was like, what is going on? There's like, it was really windy and it was hard to get around on the boat anyway, and then the trade winds finally backed off for a couple days, and it was like, oh, either some moved back in or like we just couldn't see him because it was so windy. I'm not kidding. It was blowing over 35 knots for like 6 days in a row. It was awful. And we did see quite a few turtles, of course. And there was a sighting of a whale shark, but I was not on the boat. It was like my one day off.
Flip the
I was so
flag.
tired though. I like couldn't even really get out of bed that day because like we'd just been so beat up on trips and like I'd been working so many trips that I was like I literally would not be safe on the boat today if I went into work. So I was like, it's super cool that they saw a whale shark, but like I missed it because it was like my one day off.
Where was
Is it
it?
pretty rare there?
I guess in the spring and summer they're not as rare, but like they're hard to spot. It's not
Is
like
it? Was it in the usual place you take them to snorkel, or was it on the way there?
No, usually what happens is I think they see them like on the way to Molokini or like on the way back to the harbor from like Turtletown and stuff, like
Wow.
out in the middle, like more open offshore type stuff. The one that was
Turtletown?
along the shore, the one that was on the shore in Lahaina like 2 months ago or whatever. Remember you tagged me in that, Eric?
Uh-huh.
That I think is less common that they're close to shore like that. I think they're more out.
That's crazy.
So
I love whale
Yeah.
sharks. They're so cool.
I still have never seen one, so I really want to see one. But yeah.
I'll get one.
Hopefully, I'll be very happy. You guys will all hear about it.
Or you just gotta go to
Um,
Mexico. They're everywhere in Mexico.
I know. Well, I'm just hoping that maybe before I'm done with the season here, it'll happen. We'll see. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
I've been on the water a lot, which is good. It's exhausting, but it's good. So
Did
yeah.
you guys know that we don't really know where whale sharks breed? And that's
Yeah.
a huge conservation issue because they're now listed
How do you
as
protect that
endangered.
area? Yeah.
Exactly. If you don't know where it is, they think it's off of the Galapagos, is what a lot of people are kind of trying to figure out. They've seen a lot of pregnant females.
I think we've talked about
in the
that, huh?
Galapagos. Have we?
I don't know.
No, I think
I
we
don't know
talked
if
about it a
we've
long
talked
time
about
ago.
them.
What?
Oh,
Or
really?
was it a movie that we watched where they like tagged the mother, but then it like fell off right before, and
I
That
think
was
kind
You
of like
one
guys,
of the.
kind of like the blue whale one.
I think it was a film. I don't think we talked about it on an episode.
you seen the footage of the baby whale sharks? Like Southeast Asia, they get them every
Oh,
now
yeah.
and then. They're like yay big,
Isn't that
Like
cool?
Aw.
2-3 feet long. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
Have they seen one give birth in captivity?
No.
I
Yeah.
don't. There's not an. Is there an active attempt for breeding programs in captivity?
I don't think so.
I
Now
don't think
there
so
is a whale
either.
shark in captivity though, right?
There's
Yeah, there's
two.
whale sharks in
Georgia,
captivity.
or
Georgia,
The Georgia
Hawaii.
Aquarium has some. Japan has some. Yep.
Okinawa
Yeah.
Aquarium has one. One of Georgia's just died a few months ago, or maybe
Yeah.
even a year ago. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But
Whale sharks are bad.
yeah, so that's on my list of things that I would like to see here. But we're starting to see more competition groups, which that's pretty typical. March Madness, where there's
Yeah.
less and less females around, and so there's more competition sparked for males and more activity. So I've seen a couple competition groups the last couple days, which have been pretty decent. So
Any bloody tubercles?
not recently, but earlier in the season we had a couple groups that were like that, where there was some blood drawn.
Nice.
And the blood's from the barnacles and maybe even keys.
Yeah.
And stuff, right?
Mostly barnacles
Okay. Just making
from the
sure.
other whales scraping each other.
Okay. I'm just wondering what kind of sharp objects whales have to encounter
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
be
for sure.
honest, it's pretty sad. I don't know if I talked about this in an episode previously, but I worked a shift in Lahaina, and there was a pretty young calf that had propeller scars from its dorsal fin all the way down to its
Jeez.
fluke.
Aw.
Like, I'm not kidding. This calf was under a month old. It already had prop scars, and the prop scars looked like they had
So
already
bad.
spread out. So it got hit when it was pretty little. And then also I've seen a couple whales with like these weird like parallel set of lines on them that are like, it almost looks like barnacles from the bottom of a boat.
Ugh.
So
Mm.
yeah, definitely be careful out there if you're boating. And we actually have one of our topics is more about
Yeah, I was
that
about to say
as well.
that leads to one of our topics pretty well.
Yeah. So should we get into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, science.
Should we just go in order as how I have it? Does that work?
I'll tell you what I saw real quick.
Oh yeah,
It
what did you see?
It wasn't very long list. It wasn't a very long list. I saw like 3 gray whales and 6 inshore bottlenose dolphin.
Nice.
Hey, more than I've seen, dude.
It was actually like I had that really incredible week with the humpbacks, gray whales, fin whales, commons, and then like we just started getting wind and everything kind of has been weird.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I'm
Just the
glad you're
wind.
still getting out there seeing whales.
there was no gray
Yeah.
whales that week either. The first week, and then all of a sudden there's a lot of northbound gray whales now. So it should be
Starting
pretty
to
good
pick
right
up.
now. Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
the first topic we have on our list was a suggestion from Slater.
Woo!
So
Y'all.
it's not about whales, but it is about an ocean animal. It's about cuttlefish. So this is from Science Alert, which is hosted by, let's see, I don't remember. It's Science Alert. I think it's a magazine. And so it says a cephalopod has passed a cognitive test designed for human children. And we were all teasing each other about the marshmallow test.
I ate it.
I would pass
You
that.
ate it?
That
I only
so
get
easily.
one.
I think I
Adam
would
waited.
pass.
Now he
I'm
got
pretty-
two marshmallows.
I'm
Well, it's
pretty
like-
patient.
It would be for us. It would be like, okay, we'll give you one humpback whale, but if you don't look at it, you'll get
Yeah,
10 humpback
two.
whales.
I'll wait.
It's like, oh,
I'd close my
I'll
eyes.
wait. I have to close my eyes. Slater's that little kid in the chair with his hands over his eyes, like, don't look at the marshmallow, don't look at the marshmallow. So, the Stanford marshmallow experiment is where it was like modeled after. So, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, basically a kid sat at a table and they put a marshmallow on the table and they tell the kid, if you can wait 15 minutes, you'll get 2 marshmallows. And then they make them sit there in front of the marshmallow for 15 minutes and record what they do. And so if the child can wait the full 15 minutes and get the 2 marshmallows, it shows that they understand delayed gratification and that they have skills like future planning, things like that. And so it doesn't, I don't know if it necessarily determines anything in their personality or their future or anything, but it kind of shows like how some people are way more patient than others and understand the like delayed reward concept, and some people don't. There are primates that can do this, and even corvids, so like ravens and crows. And then I think they've tried to do it with dogs, but the results have been pretty inconsistent. But last year, a cuttlefish passed the marshmallow test. Of course, they didn't actually give the cuttlefish marshmallows.
Oh,
So basically, what they did is they used
Wait,
crab
wait.
meat. What?
Imagine they tried to give it a marshmallow and it was like, no wonder it didn't take it. And then they give it shrimp and it eats it. It's like, oh,
doesn't even know what it is.
It didn't eat the
They give you
marshmallow.
2 marshmallows and it still didn't eat it. Hopefully,
like
there's
the
3 marshmallows.
Little marshmallows or like the campfire size ones?
That affects the delayed gratification.
So there's footage of
So-
like just going like this, staring at the marshmallow for 15 minutes, going, "Oh,
Yeah, I want
marshmallow."
to see this.
Of the kids or of the cuttlefish? Well, the cuttlefish didn't get a marshmallow. They did it with crab meat and with shrimp.
But I want to see the original experiment. Like, this is just footage of people staring at marshmallows, just start looking at for
Yeah,
15
have you
minutes.
not seen a video of the kids doing it?
Yeah, there's.
Real?
Some of you
know
can
it's
find
real.
it.
You know what?
That'd be
There's a
funny.
Netflix documentary that's all about science, and like one of the episodes they do that for some reason.
Yeah, like some of the kids literally, that's why I was saying Slater would be the kid with the hands over his eyes, because like some of the kids will sit there with their eyes closed for 15 minutes so that they can wait it out. And some of them will like really like get really close and like try and touch it, and then they're like, no.
Slater was right. It's kind of like here in Monterey when we pass all the single whales, you know, to get to the freaking lunch feeding whales, you know.
And
Yeah.
none of our passengers passed the test. They're like,
Yeah.
No.
Why are we passing those? You
There's
guys
nothing
suck.
where you're passing
There's
them.
whales there.
You're like, trust us. We have something better. Trust the
Yeah.
process.
Fine,
Then
you
when
guys
they're
don't want to
looking
see the
up-
killer whale eating the gray whale? We'll just stop right here.
Exactly.
So basically, with cuttlefish, they did. If the cuttlefish would refrain from eating a meal of crab meat, then they would get shrimp, which they prefer.
Live.
So, yeah, and then they did another version where they had a chamber that was like see-through, and like one was a piece of raw king prawn, just like a piece of it, and then the other one was a live shrimp. And so then like the cuttlefish could like be trained to look at both of those and recognize what was going on, and then they would open the door to the piece of meat, and if they didn't go for it right away, then the door would be open for the live shrimp instead, so they could wait and not go for the piece of meat.
So smart.
That's pretty smart.
Aliens.
Cephalopods are going to take over the world someday.
Aliens.
They already are.
This
Did you guys?
Have
Did
you
you
guys
guys see
seen the
that
baby
crazy
cephalopod?
video of the? Did you guys see the crazy video like the cuttlefish, like the eye?
oh, the color change and
It's like
stuff while it's
it's like a
sleeping.
real eye. Look at that thing.
Well, duh, it's a real eye.
But like, it's like look at that. Like,
Who took that? Who took that video?
His name is Hunting for Paradise. That's not his actual name, but yeah, look
That's
him up
his
on
Wow, what a
Instagram.
name! Is it? What's his last name? Is it Paradise or is it Forrest?
Or is it hunting?
It's hunting for yeah.
Mr. Paradise?
Yeah, Mr. Paradise.
So, do you want to hear the theory as to why they think these animals can do this?
Why?
Aliens?
So, they said cuttlefish, as far as it's known, they don't use tools or store food, and they're not particularly social. But they think that they have the ability to delay gratification because of how much time they spend like camouflaging and stalking prey. So like they'll hunker
gotta
down
wait.
somewhere and like wait until they see what they want and know that they can attack it.
So they're used to waiting then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's just like, well, I don't really want that. If this thing's gonna open up, I'll just stay camo and then.
Yeah.
How big was his cuttlefish, by the way? Because these little baby ones are really cool.
I don't know. It says it was a common cuttlefish. Sepia officinalis.
It's not that big.
Not the. Well,
I don't know. Let's Google it.
Mid-size for a cuttlefish. Then you got like flamboyants that are like that big and.
Yeah, the flamboyant ones are tiny.
Tiny, yeah. But then there's
see a cuttlefish.
That big.
49 centimeters in mantle length.
It's a little over a foot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of big.
You think people eat cuttlefish?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know your birds, you give them that bone, that's from cuttlefish.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and cuttlefish tastes good. It's like squid.
It's like squid, probably, yeah. Do you think cuttlefish are like the cool, like big brother, and squid are kind of just like the boring, like dude that just like sits at home all day, or like?
I don't know. Squid are pretty cool.
Squid are gnarly, dude.
Big squid are really gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah, like the Humboldt squid are crazy town.
Humboldts, club hooks, yeah.
Dude, I would
like. Dude, they would eat at them in like. I would give
like
it 8.4 seconds. And
look at Rizzo. Look at Rizzo's, dude.
Yeah, look how scarred up Rizzo's dolphins are, sperm whales are.
Dude, I want to see a Rizzo eating squid at the surface. It'll probably never happen, but that'd be so cool.
Well, you know what? It's like, imagine those days where all the Humboldts are just at the surface and they're just grabbing like nothing. You know what I mean, Eric? You fish for Humboldt
before. It's been a while. I wish they'd come back, yeah.
But it's like, okay, imagine you're out there fishing for those and, you know, literally you could drop like a feather in the water and like 100 of them will attack it. And it's like, okay, on those days, if a pod of Rizzos came through.
Freak out.
That'd be wild, dude.
Oh, they're just like throwing squid. It lands on your boat, tentacle whacks on the forehead.
Yeah. You know the craziest thing?
Squid ink in your eye, you're trying to shoot.
Caitlin and Slater might remember this. I think it happened like before I moved here in Monterey, but like a Rizzo, like almost full size, like 13-footer, like washed up in front of Moss, and Moss Landing Lab is just right there. So they're like, we'll get it. Yeah. And when they did the necropsy, there was like a full 6-foot squid inside of it, like full, you know, because they don't chew. It's like, how? Yeah. It's like,
it's slurped it on down, man.
Slurp it down.
How many they got? Like 6, 4?
Like 8.
I think
4
they
pairs.
Have, 4 to something.
And it's
pairs.
only on the top.
They have
8 at most. Only on the bottom.
Only on the bottom. Sense,
yeah. And they're like in pairs. It's weird.
Yeah, they're side by side. It's cute.
Oh my gosh! You imagine watching that thing eat? Probably take them like they probably get a hold of it, and then it takes them like I don't know, a full dive just to eat one squid.
I have a shot of their teeth. I'll send it to you guys later.
Yeah, you know what? I want a breaching photo of a Rizzo with his mouth open. That'd be cool, huh?
Someone had one that's like actually sharp. Mine's kind of bleh.
Tori Coleman has one, or Coleman. Yeah, he has one.
Everything Tori has is pretty badass.
Yeah, that dude's insane.
Yeah.
All right, so our next piece of news is about bottlenose dolphins. So dolphins are finally living and breeding in the Potomac River. So we're talking East Coast, outside of like up from the Chesapeake Bay, so Virginia area. And there's historical records There's historical records of dolphins being up the Potomac River all the way up as far as Alexandria, Virginia. But then, of course, like as the river got industrialized and polluted and all that.
I need a map to see how far inland that is.
Okay,
Is
go.
this like
Or does it
Virginia,
say
Virginia
upriver?
Beach? Is it like or other parts of Virginia?
Is Virginia Beach on the south side of the Chesapeake? I think it is. Let's Google map it.
Google it, Mom.
Google it, Mom.
Oh, so funny.
How do I pull up on my thing? The Google map.
Hampton.
Come on, Caitlin, you should know this. You lived on the East Coast.
It's not in Virginia. I went
Yeah,
through
but
there though
East
on a
Coast
boat.
is, in my mind, East Coast is all the same.
It's not though.
From like
It's
South
like-
Carolina to like New York.
I think
it's like all-
Alexandria is like almost to DC.
Jeez. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh my God. Yeah, just south of it. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's like way in there.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering how far they go in over there.
Way up there. Way up there.
Maps
Yeah,
are fun.
I only went into the beginning of the Chesapeake. I didn't and got into Norfolk. I didn't go way the heck up into the river.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that's really far up there. So,
Cool.
by the 1960s, the whole river system was really bad. It was really polluted.
Mhm.
There was lots of different animals that were suffering because the river system was so bad.
Mhm.
But then we're looking now like into the 2010s, and they've documented over 1,000 bottlenose dolphins living, mating, and even they witnessed a birth in the lower
Wow.
reaches of the Potomac.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so this is the Potomac Chesapeake Dolphin Project. It's hosted by Georgetown University. And they, in 2015, only had 200 individuals. And then now this year, I think they're up to 1,000 in their catalog.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Some have even swam upstream within 50 miles of DC. So almost all the way back to Alexandria like
That's
they used
crazy.
That's awesome.
to. Let's see. And then they were following a group of dolphins, a group of 50 near Louisetta, Virginia. And then they witnessed a cloud of blood float to the surface.
Mhm.
And then they saw a really small dolphin with a really bent over dorsal fin pop up near an adult.
Mm,
So they think
Aw.
that they had just witnessed a birth in the river.
cool.
Which is
Wow.
pretty cool. So, yeah. So that's a fun discovery. And I think we don't fully realize how much these even these like saltwater animals use like brackish and freshwater
Yeah.
systems.
Well, like I said a few episodes ago, everyone's saying, they always compare bottlenose as like the coyote of the sea. They could just adapt to everything. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
But even like the
Yeah.
last few years in Oregon, like up the Columbia River, like there's been humpback whales like east of Astoria, and I just saw a thing that like there was a gray whale in there as well, and there's sea lions that go all the way up to Bonneville Dam. That's like over 100 miles inland,
Yeah.
So I think we don't realize how much range these animals really used to have because we polluted the river so heavily.
Speaking of
it just
range,
really. Go ahead.
go for it, Dad.
I was just gonna say it really makes me like, just like thinking about how these populations were back in the day, like even before the modern human. Like I can't even fathom the amount of whales that used to be in the ocean. It's pretty incredible, but also sad to think about.
Well,
Yeah.
And how many things went up rivers further than they used to,
Oh,
Yep.
I'm sure there used to be humpbacks like up rivers all the time, just like
our rivers
looking
were
for
probably
salmon or like
our rivers were probably higher water level, flowing better, wider,
Yeah.
And you think about how big like rivers like the Columbia are. I mean, geez.
Exactly.
Yeah, and those rivers used to be more of a braided river system, and so they covered a lot more floodplains and things like that. But then, humans had to go and try and control these mighty forces of nature and channel them into narrow areas.
Completely off subject, but we could probably add it to the next one. But we were just talking about range. You guys hear about Morocco?
Oh,
the humpback?
There's a gray whale.
Oh,
gray
the gray.
whale.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, it was.
Adam and I were talking about that.
Yeah, it's on my episode 73 list.
We'll talk about it later then.
Yeah, but yeah, just keep that on your radar, people. There
I
was
love gray
another
whales.
Atlantic gray whale
Me
sighting.
too.
My
It's so cool. Like
favorite.
it's just really interesting. Like when we see like behaviors like in the film Whale Wisdom where that humpback's like eating baby salmon, which like is
Yeah.
like we see, like stuff like that, or like humpbacks showing back up in the Pacific Northwest after 50 years of being absent or whatever. It's just like
Yeah.
the animals are starting to expand more and kind of reach their old habitats where they used to be, and they're being creative. Like I saw that whale that we named Dosukis, which was like creatively capturing pools of anchovies by using his tail and then trap feeding up as well. And it's just like behaviors like that and like whales popping up in new locations is like probably my favorite part about whale watching. I think that's so interesting.
Well, then my other question also is like before humans drastically altered, all of our marine ecosystems, did these animals actually need to use that amount of range, or is this out of desperation of there not being enough food out in the open ocean? Like historically,
Good
were
point
there
as well.
sea lions, 100 miles up to Colombia looking for fish, or was there enough fish out in the ocean that they never went that far? That's the question I always have. Because when they're hungry, they'll do what they need to do to find food. And I think that a lot of people miss that when they look at like, lethal methods of keeping the sea lions out of the fish traps and stuff like that. And like these animals would not swim this far for no reason.
That's very true. Yeah.
They're looking for food.
Yeah, there might have been no reason to even go up there. Yeah.
Yeah. So
True.
I don't know.
I can't confirm this, but like kind of steering back towards gray whales, like I might have heard it when I was back in school since we were in San Diego. There was something about gray whales might have made it might have used not a Baja Lagoon, but maybe even San Diego Bay itself as a place to raise calves, like maybe
So interesting.
centuries ago. I forgot where
Could
I
you
heard it. I can't
imagine?
confirm it, but
Well,
yeah,
it's huge. Like that bay is huge, and it goes way back. Like
yeah, it's bigger than
it's
I think it's bigger than San Ignacio. Yeah.
it's actually pretty crazy if you think about it.
I wouldn't doubt it that they used to use that, before
Yeah.
people really modernized the West Coast. I totally think that's probably, a very good possibility.
Like I'm talking about like the mission. It's not like the San Diego Harbor Bay is big, but like also the like Mission Bay, like where SeaWorld is. Like that place. There's also this place. I went to a wakeboard tournament when I was really young there. And yeah, that place totally looks like it would be Gray Whale City.
Caitlin,
back in
can
the
you ask
day.
the god of gray whales?
Yeah, I can email to him.
Okay.
I'll
you
shoot him
want.
an email, dude. Hit him with a tweet.
I could even call him if you want.
Dear
Oh,
God.
shit.
Oh, she got his
What up?
digits. Hello.
Dear God of gray whales. Eric was wondering if
Where else would they go? Like,
because think about how smart they are. It's like, okay, we already got Pacific Coast Feeding Group. It's like, well, I go to Alaska, well, then I can stay here in Northern California or British Columbia. So they might have been like, why take my baby all the way down there when I can just stop off in San Diego?
well, it's also
San
those
Diego.
lagoons got to reach capacity. Like Guerrero Negro is the first one that they go to, right? And then it goes to San Ignacio and then Mag. So why are they skipping Guerrero Negro? They must be just like, too many homies there. I don't want to hang out with those people, and they keep going, right? Or it's just because that's where they were born, so they kept going.
Yeah, well, historically there used to be so many gray whales that like I'm sure those lagoons were literally full.
You can walk over them, yeah.
Yeah, like at some point they're like, nah, it's too crowded, we gotta go. And then you have this like, go where your mom takes you thing as well. So that maybe is a remnant of like when the population was bigger is why they still spread out that far.
Oh, can you also ask the god this if you talk to him? Where did our Atlantic populations give birth? Right? Where were they?
Oh yeah. Okay.
Giving
Oh,
birth?
I could pick
I
some
don't know.
lagoons on
I
that
don't
side
know
if
if
you
he
want me to look
knows
it
all
up.
that historical stuff because he did more of like the present, like
Yeah.
current studies of gray whales.
Because I know they
in the
found
60s.
bones. They've been finding bones off Georgia's coastline. So I don't, but I don't know. Like Florida,
I'll
think about it,
email
would be
I don't think
perfect.
Florida.
Like
if he
intercoastal
doesn't. Well, yeah,
waterway.
that's where the right whales breed.
Yeah.
So Florida and Georgia.
Damn, man. Could you imagine seeing that? Gray whales and right whales just like everywhere off the East Coast. That would be so crazy.
Be awesome.
What if they went around the corner and just went up to like
inside the
Houston.
Gulf.
Yeah, somewhere
Yeah.
up that way.
They
Never
may have
know.
as well. I mean, you see manatees in there.
Panama City. I'd go there.
He's looking at a map of Florida.
Just on the map, like this looks great.
Or
I'd go there.
Back to
I'm
what,
just
like
looking
Adam,
anywhere that has like a bay, like
But
Chudamal in
also,
Mexico.
you have to
Belize.
think about the Gulf and how it used to be before humans tried to tame all those river
Yeah.
systems. Again, there's a lot of sediment flow
Yeah.
and a lot of brackish water and stuff. I don't know if that's better or worse for
Sure.
breeding habitat, you know.
back to like Adam, what he just said, like you wish you could go back in time and see like what was here. If anyone ever visits there's a national park museum. It's kind of weird. It's over by Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. I don't know if it's open now because of everything's going on, but in there they have a whaling exhibit, and they still have an old map of where they were taking right whales and sperm whales off of California, and
Oh
they're
my god.
everywhere. They actually have little stamps they would put on the map of where they took the animal, and it was everywhere. It was crazy. Yeah, they're like
Wow.
sperm whale shaped and right whale shaped stamps, and they would stamp the locations, and you're like, that's
Oh my
California, and
gosh.
it's like, yep. And hopefully it's still on display. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That would
Could
be
you
really
imagine
cool to
that,
see.
man?
Yeah,
Oh. People suck.
yeah. Killed them
Yeah.
all.
We suck.
We are just quite an invasive species.
That's what our
aren't we?
podcast lets us know every time we talk.
People.
If you get one of the main themes out of the podcast, it's that humans are the worst.
Maybe that should be our little
Dude.
tag, like whale nerds in little parentheses.
Humans are the worst.
Humans are the worst. We suck.
Well, it's just like think about it. There's like what they estimate 30 Pacific right whales, North Pacific
Yeah,
right
30.
whales,
Yeah, 30 to 50. Yeah.
and it's like, could you imagine they used to slaughter them off the California coast? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh my gosh, that's
It's like
so
they're eating
crazy.
pancakes, like it's nothing.
Yeah. Same
And
thing with
sperm whales
yeah.
too. Yeah,
Yes.
we see
Yeah.
sperm whales what once a
Monterey
year,
Bay,
maybe
they did
every
it.
couple years. Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, Google sperm whale Monterey Bay, Adam, and you can see all the photos of them in Moss Landing where they drag them
At
up
the
on
whaling station.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I
I
don't
got-
want
yeah.
to, but I'm also going to.
I got that book. In fact,
Okay,
all
well
the
this
pictures-
very doom and gloom turn is kind of appropriate for the next thing on our topics
Woo!
list.
Another sad one. Let's hit it,
This is
Caitlin.
the last
I
sad
like-
one. So, speaking of how humans are the worst, Cottontail, who is a North Atlantic right whale, was confirmed dead on, I think, March 1st. This whale had been entangled since the fall of 2019.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
There's a photo from Center for Coastal Studies Right Whale Aerial Survey, October 19th, 2020. October 19th of 2020. It had line wrapped in its mouth, trailing down its back. And I think there was an attempt to disentangle it, but it didn't get it all. And then, yeah, this is emaciated body found on Saturday. So at the end of February, they found it dead off Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Mm.
So, yeah, he was born in 2009. And he was sighted in Cape Cod Bay almost every single year during his life. And he is the 34th recorded death since 2017 for North Atlantic right whales. So they are also having a UME, an unusual mortality event. We did the definitions of a UME in a previous episode not that long ago when we were talking about gray whales. So yeah, I mean, basically he just starved to death from, yeah, pretty horrible.
Yeah,
So sorry to bum you out with that one, but
Yeah, that picture's
humans
still
are the
up.
worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those pictures of him were pretty bad, and the great whites
Yeah.
feeding on him and stuff.
I mean, this just goes back. I've said this on the podcast before, but like this just goes back to Michael Moore when he was talking to ACS a couple years ago. He's like, we might as well just go back to whaling because it's more humane than letting animals die of disentanglement.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like, it's so bad, and I guess that just goes, like, for everybody out there listening, like, if you eat seafood, purchase it sustainably, support, because there are a lot of companies out there that are getting into sustainable fishing and, managing fish stocks properly and all that stuff. So be wary of what you eat and where your food comes from. I think that's very important, and, try your best to support sustainable fishing companies. I guess that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, know where your
You-
seafood comes. You should know where all your food comes from, to be honest. But know where your
Totally.
seafood comes from, especially.
Eric, you think there's just so many bones on the Moss Landing beach?
You know what? Actually, Richard, didn't he say that there used to be a lot of minke whale bones and stuff like that? Like, actually, even like right there off of Del Monte, like people were talking about bones that would like line from there. Just yeah, pretty much all around the bay. Because if you think about the whaling stations here, I mean, you had Point Lobos, you had Moss Landing, you had Davenport. You know,
They process whales on shore at Maccabee as well.
yeah, yeah. Just wait for a good winter day, big swell, and
And
I
what
mean,
is it?
yeah,
Whalers Cove in Point Lobos?
Yep.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so their bones are everywhere. In fact, whale station. Remember the front door and the vertebrae sidewalk. Yeah, the
Yeah.
bones are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up
They
in
have that boiling pot there too. They have one in Whalers Cove in Point
Yeah.
Lobos, and then they have one right there on Monterey Wharf where you can go see that.
Yep.
What's that place
Mhm.
called, Caitlin? That little sector.
it's the Monterey Whaling. Oh, up in the plaza. What is it called?
Heritage Harbor.
Heritage Harbor.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that
where the
place.
whaling building
You
is.
could see
Yeah.
where they melted the blubber down.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have such a dark past. It's so sad.
Yeah, it is. All right, so let's talk. It's less sad, but it's still, kind of has sad
I
undertones.
feel like the whale world is so interesting
No,
because there's so many
whaling is so
amazing.
sad.
Do you
Well,
remember
there's just
me
so many
talking?
amazing things that we see, but at the same time, it's like,
Do you remember me
ugh.
talking about Future Ecologies, the podcast? And I was listening to this guy who works with like the rare manzanitas in Central California, and he's like, "At least I don't work on the ocean." And I was like, "Dude, you have one plant left of the species you're studying, and you'd rather do that than work on the ocean."
Jeez.
I was
Yeah,
like,
that's bad.
sad. Okay, so our next topic is one that I'm actually happy to see some science done on. It's about the
Yeah.
diet studies year round on southern resident killer whales. So, like, what are they reading? What are they eating all year long? We obviously know salmon is very important to them, but like they also eat other things. So we should kind of look more into that and see if there's some other ways we can kind of help protect their food sources. In the late winter to early spring, their diet is the most variable, which makes sense because the salmon are not running then back to their native rivers. But Chinook salmon's always going to be the most major component of their diet.
Yes.
And one of the interesting things that I saw, which makes sense, I mean, these animals are smart. They want the best bang for their buck. They tend to select older age classes of fish because they're
Yep.
bigger. They have a higher oil content, but they're also harder to find because of the
Yeah,
fisheries
especially now.
pressure and the spawning issues. It's harder to find older fish. They tend to consume the fish close to the fish's natal river, which also makes sense. When the salmon are returning to those inland waters, back to the rivers for spawning, they've been offshore feeding, they're nice and fat and ready to breed. That's where they're going to go to catch them. It's and they bottleneck there, right? Like they're not as spread out
sure.
because they're trying to get back to their natal
Rivers.
river, so it's easier to catch them because they're in a higher concentration. I think that's my theory on it. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts. Oh, I also made a cascading list of like what they eat. So at the top of the list is Chinook salmon, then chum salmon, then coho.
Lingcod and halibut were in there too, right? That's kind of neat.
It's like it goes Chinook, chum, coho, steelhead, lingcod, halibut, and skate are the top ones that they eat. And again, all those fish are big, right? And they have a pretty good oil content. So
Wow, let's hope that they start picking up the bottom of that list and start flipping around their food selection.
But it's amazing how smart they are with their food, because they're literally picking out the fattiest, oily ones. You really go down, skate has like nothing, and then it's awesome. They're so smart.
Yeah, they are. They really are. But also like lingcod and halibut are also highly prized fish.
Too. And they're easier to get too for a whale if you think about it, right? Because they're not as fast as the salmon.
Yeah. But also like there's still going to be issues of competition with fishing pressure for those two fish if they end up making that more of their diet. and
Yeah.
It's very
halibut. They're
popular up
both
there.
really popular.
Yeah.
Wasn't there footage of actually? I don't know what ecotype it was, but a K-dub taking a halibut off of someone's line. Was that
Oh,
what
really?
Alaska or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest?
Maybe.
Yeah, probably
Maybe.
find that on the YouTubes.
Yeah, I never saw it, but yeah. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys had any other thoughts since you read the papers as well. I see some other notes in here that I don't think I wrote, so.
I think
It's just
shows
it's
their intelligence.
impressive. Exactly. Yeah, like we always talk about these animals eating Chinook salmon, and obviously, I think it said in the spring, 100% of their samples were Chinook salmon based, of their fecal samples and scale samples or whatever. And obviously, like these animals, are we always talk about how we hope they can adapt and we hope that they can start eating other food sources. And it's like, okay, yeah, they do eat, some of their diet is these other food sources, but at the end of the day, it's like that's what they've been eating for thousands and thousands and millions of years, and that it can't just change like that. So I think that the fact that even when they're eating, I think it said in the fall they're eating 50% Chinook salmon. I mean, even then, that's almost the majority of their diet. So that fact is not going to change. They're not going to go away from eating Chinook salmon, and that's what we should be focused on is increasing Chinook salmon instead of all of these other
Yeah.
outside distractions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I think you have to recognize that they are capable of eating other food, but I don't think we should rely on that as a conservation strategy, right?
Definitely
A lot
not.
of people were waiting for that day. There's so much footage of residents like playing with harbor porpoise. Just one day, one's
Eating
gonna
the
bite.
crap out of them.
Yeah, really bite in, going, oh, it's gonna be
Yeah.
like.
But I
Will that
mean,
never
I
happen?
think the southern residents are kind of like a canary in a coal mine when it comes to the Chinook salmon fishery, right? Because it's not just them that eat Chinook salmon. And also the flow of nutrients from the open ocean to the inland water habitats, a lot of that is driven by Chinook salmon. So it's not just going to be the ocean that suffers from not having these fish.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how you don't look at the southern resident situation and go, holy moly, we need to save the fish populations, because it's not just these whales that are suffering. They're just the most obvious ones to see.
Yeah.
So,
Because they're big.
yeah. So, yeah, it was good to see something come out about the fish in relation to southern residents, not just
Definitely
any other
vessels
issues or anything. So hopefully
sure.
the dam conversation continues to build
Damn.
Yeah,
some positive
that's
momentum.
it has been,
Yeah.
it really has been, and that's great to hear. And that's the one thing that we've all been fighting for, and everybody in the Pacific Northwest has been fighting for. And it's good to see, even though there are papers and governments trying to attack whale watching or attack sea lions, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's good to know that this salmon problem is still at the front of the line, hopefully, and that
Yeah.
these dams can be taken down at some point.
Yep. Okay, so our next one is a paper that came out at the beginning of the year from Frontiers Science Journal, and it's from Pacific Whale Foundation and collaborators about whale watch vessel behavior, and actually just all vessel behavior in general in the Hawaiian Islands around humpback whales. The paper is open source, so anyone can access it and read it. And it was a land-based study, which I think was compelling because it's less likely to bias the results because your vessel is not there being a factor in the whole mix. And basically what they found they used like two theodolites. So they tracked like the group of whales, and then they tracked the vessels, and then they like calculated, distances and speeds and all that kind of stuff. And what they found is that in the presence of vessels, the dive times for whales were significantly shorter during and after an encounter with a whale. So they were at the surface more and they were diving less, about 83% shorter dive times. And most of the reduction in dive time was occurring when boats were only following the federal regulation, which is you can't approach closer than 100 yards. and they weren't following any additional whale watch guidelines, such as Be Whale Aware, which is what Pacific Whale Foundation's vessels came up with. After getting a lot of this research information behind the scenes, we were able to put together a program that's more holistic about how to approach whales, and it's more like it can be used better situationally. So boats there was a noticeable difference between boats that only followed the 100-yard approach versus boats that followed the Be Whale Aware guidelines. The presence of vessels also caused whales to swim faster, had higher respiration rates, and increased their path directedness. So they were less zigzagging, they were traveling more in a straight line, and they decreased their dive times. And they kind of characterize all those things into what's called a horizontal avoidance strategy. So this is the whales trying to get away from the boat in some fashion. The approach method of each vessel as they got close to that 100 yards did reduce some of the effects of those observed behavior changes. So if you came in slow and, like from the side or like slightly behind the whales, then you're going to have less of an adverse response from the whale. But the overall conclusion, which is not surprising, is that vessels in Hawaii are impacting whale behavior, right? Like we can't deny that a boat is going to have some impact on whale behavior. Yes. They did say that the vessel proximity effects to humpback whales affected all their surface behaviors, and that does line up with previous work that's been done around the Hawaiian Islands with humpback whales. But the paper also recognizes that the relationships between boats and whales, and even amongst groups of whales, is really complex, especially in the breeding grounds like mom-calf escort pairs and competition groups and that kind of stuff. They all have really unpredictable behavior, and so they can't attribute all of it to the boats, because even when they observed those whales without any boats, they did have unpredictable surface behavior patterns.
For sure.
Then they said, and then that was saying that, of course, then your results cannot solely be attributed to a single cause, being vessels, but vessels and their proximity to whales does play a role in whale behavior. They also said that in general, the vessel presence and proximity to whales was more of a factor than anything else, even including the number of vessels and the types of vessels. The most important thing was, is there a boat there or not? After there's one boat there and they're at that 100 yards, it doesn't really matter how many other boats are going to come around. You've already had a disturbance.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
I think it was interesting. I think they also put an emphasis on one point on just, a pretty big emphasis on approach. And I think that is something that is definitely controllable from our standpoint, from whale watch standpoint, or just vessels in general. For the most part, when we're whale watching, or I assume it's the same in Maui, you see a whale and you know how far about it is and you can approach accordingly. Obviously there's some times where you'll be approaching and maybe another whale will pop up closer to the boat, and that's kind of hard to avoid. But I feel like for the most part, with responsible, again, we always talk about responsible whale watching companies and proper etiquette around whales, you can kind of control that. You can slow down when you get within a quarter mile or a half mile of a whale and slowly approach it. That's what we do. I'm sure that's what a lot of companies do. So I think the just approach in general, that's something that we can control and, try to lessen our impact there. But just all together, I think a paper written about viewing whales from shore and vessel effect there, I think is a lot more beneficial than using a vessel to try to determine that. We talked about the paper with the tags with the killer whales and stuff, and obviously killer whales and humpbacks are, I think, different monsters, and you got to deal with them.
It's all different. Ways. Yeah, I think it's really species dependent too. Like gray whales. Like one thing I've noticed some captains do, and the good captains, do is gray whales. They run for the shallows. When they feel like freaked out. So, a lot of the good captains always keep the whales.
On the offshore side. Yeah, stay offshore
side.
of them.
Yeah. And it does make a difference. I've seen it, many times out here.
Yeah. I was watching a gray whale, I guess 2 weeks ago now, with Kristen and I, and there was another private boat, and there's like this little small river boat. This guy and girl were on it, and they literally just kind of took off, went up ahead, purposely tried to go up in front of them and stop. And I swear these whales were like fine until they got there.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, the whales go way inshore to the beach.
Yep.
And they were on a
Yep.
perfect ship. And then they
Yep.
did it again. And so we're like about to say something, but then they ended up pulling off and leaving, thankfully.
Mhm.
And sure enough, after that boat leaves, they kind of got right back on their course and like kept going up.
Yep.
Then a sailboat shows up and we waved him down. We're like, hey, slow down. There's, he's like, you're watching the gray whale. I know. We're like, yeah, okay, but slow down, I swear to God, this sailboat is behind us. Like we're kind of the lead boat. He just, next thing you know, it just cuts us off and goes right between us and the whale. And we're like, it was the most mind blowing thing I've ever seen. Like it was like the guy just like tacked right across us. No care in the world. And it was like, what? And so we ended up like that guy ended up kind of cruising. And I don't know, but it was just like you could totally watch the behavior. We had a drone up too, and you could totally watch the whales just all three angle into the beach, and it was like, what are the odds,
Yeah. So the other thing in the paper that was noted, which kind of further emphasizes the need for like slow approaches as you get close to 100 yards, is that the whales started showing altered surface behavior well outside of that 100 yards approach.
Yeah.
Because they can hear you, right?
For sure.
So that's why you need to slow down when you're outside of even 400 yards so that you're, you're like quieting your engine noise and stuff. Yeah. And then there also was some note about there was absolutely a lack of behavioral response during very close encounters with boats less than 100 yards. And they suspect that that's because in Hawaii, you need to keep your engines in neutral until the whale swims 100 yards away from you. So the engine's quieter. And then also the whales are potentially interacting with the boat. There may be a friendly encounter going on. And so they're not going to have a disturbed behavioral response during those close encounters because the whale is initiating some of that behavior with the vessel. And then the vessel, if they're following the rules, has their engine in neutral or has their engine off if it's possible to turn it off. And so the noise disturbance is much less.
And I guess that's like, for me, like that's the biggest counter argument to people that always say, whale watch boats are like harming whales. Like there's a recent comment thread on one of Delaney's posts from somebody in the Pacific Northwest that was like, here in Washington, we stay 200 yards away from whales. Like that's the rule and regulation, and that's what you have to do. And like her video is like of a whale mugging the boat. And it's like, okay, if this whale was in any way, shape, or form, in disturbance of this boat and her boat had no engines on, like the whale wouldn't be there mugging the boat. They would leave, And so I think muggings are like the one counter argument to just whale watching boats in general. Like, if we were really putting so much stress in these animals that they didn't want to be around us, they'd
swim away.
Exactly. It would swim away.
That humpback in particular was the same one I had a friendly encounter with the day before, and another boat had one the day before that.
That whale visited all the Orange County boats.
That whale, that humpback whale, I swear to God, was probably a quarter mile away from us at our 11 o'clock, and we were just getting into the area in the morning. We were idling, going straight forward, and I'm just talking to her, talking about how, and she literally was like, oh, this whale, I told you guys this. This is a friendly whale. My friend had a friendly encounter with it last night. And I'm like, the whale's under our boat. Literally, we were just idling, going forward. This whale was way ahead of us, stopped, came back, and went underneath our boat and was literally like bow riding us. And we obviously went in neutral and stopped. And it was like, God, that's just crazy. You never know.
Yeah.
But so that's the thing. Like, people are always like, it's a huge topic of debate right now, is whale watching boats putting an impact on whales. And it's like, again, we talk about it ourselves. We're aware that there is some impact. We're aware that vessel engines and boats make noise, but it's like, if it was really that harmful, these whales wouldn't be approaching us. They wouldn't be curious of us. If they wanted to go away, they could take a 30-minute dive and we would never see them again. Like if that was really the case.
And also think about this whale watching here, especially here in California. I mean, it started like early 70s when we know the lifespan of a whale. So if whale watching boats have been that bad to them, why are these whales still continuing, their same migration patterns?
Another thing,
it would change,
Yeah.
This whole article is based on Hawaii, right?
Yeah, so that's the caveat I was going to put, is that with this paper, you have to be mindful that this is about humpbacks in a breeding ground. And that's one of the things that they write in their conclusions as they're making recommendations and things, is that these whales are not eating. So you do have to be careful about their energy budget. This is also where they're trying to breed and they are giving birth. And so like some important life history events while fasting are happening. So you do have to be pretty cautious about, you know, how you manage any disturbance to them in this area because they're so far away from their food source.
Yeah, and on top of that, I feel like, let's say we did the same exact study in Monterey during the feeding season, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like when their mindset is just food, you know, around the clock, I don't think they care what's around.
They don't even care. Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we don't change their behavior, because I personally watched in Southern California a bunch of whale watch boats show up to a humpback whale that had been chilling there for hours. They all showed up, and then, you know, next thing you know, he split. So I don't know if that was a cause, but I mean, I feel like when they are feeding, they could be very one-track minded and not care about what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and I think the effects of the stress of disturbance are going to be different for an animal that's around a food source versus an animal that's fasting.
Yeah.
And then also, like, just keeping in mind, this is the question that I brought up during when we discussed the killer whale paper too, is like, when there are calves present, does that change the dynamic and the response as well? You know, like if they're babysitting, or for humpbacks, if a mom is in charge of a calf around boats and stuff, like how does that change her stress level and how much energy she's willing to spend? And also, if you're just wondering what those Be Whale Aware guidelines are, they're on Pacific Whale Foundation's website, but basically they say slow down, there's whales around. Your speed increases the risk of a collision. They recommend not traveling faster than 12 and a half knots at any time during whale season, but also when you're within 300 meters of a whale to slow down to 6 knots or slower. And then obviously don't approach whales closer than 100 meters. That's the federal regulation. Stay at the helm with a posted observer while you're underway. And then approach areas of whale activity with caution, because there can be animals coming in and out of a social group, which is also true of feeding. You, Slater, and Eric have seen that and how poorly it can go. And then obviously don't approach a whale head on or get in the path of their direction of travel. And then don't leapfrog in front of their direction of travel either. Like you see them go down, so you go up where you think they're going to be. Don't do that. They also recommend to not spend more than 30 minutes with moms and calves. And if there's more than 3 vessels of any size or type, then let's see, should be with no more than 3 vessels of any size or type should be within 300 meters of a whale at any time. So try to not have more than 3 boats at a time on a group of whales.
And you shouldn't stay like half of your all day trip with like one set of whales too, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Sure.
Also, do not attempt to touch or feed a whale is in there.
Really? Dang it.
And then sudden or excessive noise when within 300 meters of a whale, including people on board, like banging the side of the boat, or like you throw your engines in reverse because you got really close to them on accident. All that kind of stuff can be like really loud and can disturb the whales. So, yeah.
Can you splash the whales with a cup?
Not in Hawaii.
I'm wondering, like, obviously, I think that the breeding grounds are probably a very loud. Like, if you took all the boats off the water, I'm sure the breeding ground is pretty loud just because they're talking a lot to each other and they're singing and all that stuff. But I wonder if it's louder when they're feeding because there's, giant, enormous schools of anchovies involved and sea lions and birds eating. I wonder.
I know. Think about that.
I wonder how big the difference there is in terms of sound between the breeding and feeding grounds. I think that would be really cool to see.
Caitlin froze and she looked like she had something so perfect to say.
I was plugging in my phone.
Well, sea lions are very loud. We hear them on the hydrophone in Monterey.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wonder if Hawaii versus Monterey Bay. I just like if you were able to take the boats off the water and just have that noise, because I'm sure like if they're feeding and there's all that noise and commotion going around, they probably like obviously I think they hear the boats and stuff, but they probably don't let it get to them as much as in a breeding ground when they're focused on calving and competition groups and all that kind of stuff.
Reach out to Moss Landing Marine Labs and get audio recordings from the peak of humpback season in Monterey and then the peak of humpback season in Maui and listen to them.
Compare
You know,
'em,
one
yeah.
thing I've noticed that's never rarely brought up, and in fact, I don't think it's been brought up. I was actually listening to a naval guy talk about the use of sonar and noise in different depths of water.
Yes, it changes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just wondering where we usually view the whales, obviously on the surface, is that the better place where the sound is transmitting or the worse,
Yeah, that's a good question too.
I think that the deeper you go, the better it attenuates. The better
Exactly.
it travels.
Yeah.
But
So
the
if they're
surface
feeding,
layer of water is also quite noisy from wind and waves and shorelines and that kind of stuff too.
and so if they're feeding at 300 feet, then they're obviously not hearing that boat noise as much as they would be when they're on the surface, right?
I think it's the opposite.
I think,
Oh, they hear it
the
more when
low
they're louder.
The
I mean,
low
lower.
frequency sound
Lower,
penetrates better
yeah.
at lower depths.
Lower, yeah.
Yeah.
Science.
It's all the temperature.
Even though they're closer to boats.
Temperature.
Yeah, science,
salinity,
Adam.
Temperature, salinity, all that makes a difference in the amount that sound can travel.
Which is the perfect segue to our last topic.
We are just on it today. Perfect segues. Let's go.
A couple weeks ago, we talked about this literature review that came out called The Soundscape of the Anthropocene Ocean. And I emailed one of the lead authors, Carlos Duarte, and asked for a copy of the actual full paper because it was not open access, and he kindly sent it to me.
Cool.
So this is basically a whole literature review of a lot of work that's been done at a whole bunch of different levels of ocean science about the effects of human-produced sound in the ocean. So the most important point they made is that sound is currently looked at as a point source pollutant. So they are considering it a pollutant, but as soon as so a point source means that
what's a point source? Yeah.
when the pollutant source leaves, the effects of the pollutant leave as well. So when the boat drives away, you're not having any more sound pollution. Like it comes in, it doesn't linger like a chemical pollutant would after an oil spill or something like that.
I thought it was also you could point at it and be like, that's the source.
Well, that too, but it leaves.
Versus chemicals. Chemicals could be anywhere, but noise is okay. That factory, right?
You can identify this source of it very quickly, and then also it has the ability to leave very quickly. Yeah. So obviously our soundscapes are changing due to human activity, but there's a couple other things I didn't really consider until I read this paper. So one of the reasons the soundscape is changing is that we're losing animals that produce noise in the ocean, right? Like we hunted whales, we're extracting fish populations, coral reefs are dying. All these things make noise, and we're removing them from the ocean. Also, the natural physical sounds of the ocean are changing due to climate change. We're losing ice coverage. We're having more violent storms in certain places. Like all of that changes the natural soundscape of the ocean. Especially at the poles where you have the factor of ice coverage or glacial melt, and then the seawater is warming and it has a different salinity than it used to. That changes the propagation properties of the seawater. And so at the poles especially, you're having a lot of geophysical changes in regards to sound in the ocean, which is kind of crazy. Also, sound carries a lot more information over a larger distance than most other sensory cues that animals receive in the ocean. So things like light or chemicals, those don't have as big of a range as sound. And so sound is really important as a way to relay information to one another because it can travel so far. And they think over the past 50 years, low frequency noise has increased 32% due to global shipping. So we're just adding all this low frequency sound to the ocean because of how we move goods across the world. And then this one kind of blew my mind. Everything sound affects everything from larval settlement. Wow, I'm tripping over my words. To whales and more. So things like jellyfish, urchins, shellfish, fish, they all make noise, which also then leads people to believe that they use noise for something. And then like larval and juvenile phases of fish and invertebrates and things, they use sound to locate an appropriate settlement habitat.
So
So like when they're floating around in the ocean and they're getting ready to change into that phase where they're gonna like glue themselves to a rock,
Yep.
like they use sound to figure that out. Like where is the rock that I need to glue myself to? And it kind of reminded me of, did you guys ever see that experiment where they played noises of a healthy reef over an area of dead reef and a bunch of
Yes,
fish
I was just about to say that. I was
Yeah.
just about to bring that up.
And so like those animals need those cues of a healthy reef with sound to know where to go sometimes. So as a reef dies, it gets quiet, and then that's why all the fish leave. So that was pretty incredible.
That's so funny. I was just about to bring that up. There's also, it's kind of in relation to this. I think it was one of the Our Planet episodes about coastal seas, and they did this really cool experiment with clownfish, and they play different sounds from predators of clownfish and see how they react. This whole little family of clownfish, and that was really cool just to see how it's incredible how sound plays a role in the ocean versus on land. Like, yeah, we hear things and that's how we communicate. We talk to each other, but the ocean is just a whole different level. And the soundscape, what we're all talking about here is it's a huge thing. And like I really like this this little graph here, or this little graphic that shows like the Anthropocene now, a poorly managed future, and a well managed future.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of, for those that can't see it, I'm sure we'll post it in the if we can, we'll post it in the Facebook comments. But just about managing our future correctly in terms of, there's underwater mining, there's just a ton of boats that, put out, like we said, 32% more low frequency noise in the ocean. And it's just about balancing that and implementing new, technologies that can get what we need done at a quieter pace.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I kept thinking of when I was reading this is I watched a film a while ago called The Sonic Sea. Actually, it was a recommendation from one of our Patreon followers, so thank you for that. And there's this quote in there from a whaling captain that says the ears are the window to the soul of a whale. So like, even though they didn't have any scientific data to show how important sound was to whales, like this guy understood that the whales rely on sound. And then a lot of what Sonic Sea talked about was, naval sonar and exercises, but also global shipping, and how we've really drastically altered the soundscape of the ocean in the last 50 years or so. But it also points out, either that or I also wrote this down while I was thinking about it, that's within the lifetime of a lot of ocean animals. Like coral, they live a long time. Whales, different species of fish and sharks. Like some of these animals live hundreds of years. And so like in their lifetime, they've
seen the change. Yeah.
Interesting. And then another little kind of case study they covered in Sonic Sea, which I think is pretty appropriate and interesting, is they looked at the recovery of the North Atlantic right whales versus the Southern right whales, and how Southern right whales have been this huge conservation success story. Their recovery has gone really, really well. They were hunted just as heavily as North Atlantic right whales, and the North Atlantic right whales just like can't seem to catch a break. Well, if you look at the global shipping maps in each of those whales' habitats, the North Atlantic right
drastically different.
Yeah.
Way more shipping to deal with, noise-wise, but also vessel collision-wise, in the North Atlantic than the Southern right whales do. And there's actually it was like perfect timing. It was an awful event, but like for research, it was an interesting time because they were collecting data about cortisol levels in North Atlantic right whales, so stress hormones, and then 9/11 happened and all global traffic
stopped,
and they were still out there collecting data, and they watched the cortisol levels of the right whales drop as the shipping traffic stopped.
Oh, wow, that is so interesting.
Yeah, so like that was like one opportunity where also like the arthropod stuff we talked about last episode.
Mhm.
Like that's one opportunity that like if you just happen to get the before data and then also have the opportunity to collect the after data, you really could see what amount of stress we cause these animals.
I love this podcast, man. I've learned so much. This is awesome. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
I
So
have
in
to-
conclusion, humans are the worst.
We
And can we
suck,
go find a
dude.
North Pacific right whale?
If you can find one, Slater, I'll give you $1.
$1? That's all they're worth to you, you piece of turkey. How come Bob
Dude, that
Pittman got to take a photo of one?
Who?
Robert Pittman.
Oh, because he's a freaking research rock star.
So he just gets to take photos of North Pacific right whales when he wants to?
Dude.
Yeah, because he has a contract to find them.
There's 30
that's
of them,
so
dude.
cool. Less than 50.
That's the one. That's the one animal I would be so stoked to see, and it's not impossible because there was one a few years ago off of Anacapa Island, so it's not impossible. And I heard, I don't know if this is a crazy fisherman's tale, but it was a couple years ago. One of my captain's friends said that every day for 30 days there's a North Pacific right whale off of San Miguel Island just chilling. But
Well, Adam, you know the story about the La Jolla one, right?
Yeah,
yeah, the gray whale that was actually
Yeah, the gray whale. Yeah,
that was actually a right whale.
people are watching the news going, you know, they're like, I see
That
that.
doesn't look right.
Like,
That
Yeah,
flipper looks
that's a
funny.
right whale.
there has been sightings, so like I'm not totally ruling out that possibility.
Yeah, you never know. We're all out there enough, so you never
What
know.
if we did see them? Like, what if?
I would die.
Yeah, but what if it was like normal, like humpbacks? Like those were the normal ones to see again.
Well, that's what we were talking about earlier. Like at some point that was normal, you know.
Oh,
Yeah, I know, but like now,
I want it to be normal again.
Google this picture. Like,
Could you imagine? Oh my god, I would actually.
why is that photo so much cooler than a gray whale photo?
Because you see gray whales all the time, so that's why you think it's cool.
I know. This thing just looks like an alien.
Aliens.
Google it,
They are
guys.
kinda fun to
North
look at.
Pacific right
That's
whale. Then go to images and click it, and then cry.
Wow, dude.
All right, you guys. This podcast was 1 hour, 36 minutes, and 57 seconds.
That wasn't quite that long, but yeah, it's a long one. Thanks for hanging in there.
Good. It's a good one too. I like this one. Sorry, I cuss a lot. I'm hanging
Yeah.
out.
There's gonna be so many beeps in it.
I'm gonna go download sound effects now for beeping.
Yeah, seriously, Adam. That's gonna be
I'll
your
go-
new job.
Yeah, I'll go through and edit it. Don't worry.
Yeah, you edit this one, Adam,
I will.
and re-listen to it and learn some things.
a warning like PG-13 or something.
Yes, ever since we
Sorry.
invited Adam, all sorts of cuss words
Sorry,
are thrown
Bennett.
out.
Oh, man.
NC-17 now, thanks to Adam.
Yeah, you're welcome.
R-rated podcast because we had more than one cuss word.
Oh yeah, in
That's
one
what happens
episode.
when. That's what happens when the ocean gets you heated, man, and people get you like riled up.
That was the first time I ever cussed on a boat out loud. Not cussed on a boat, but cussed on a boat out loud with like on a whale watch trip. Was when I saw that boat hit the whale.
Oh,
I
yeah.
called the guy a bunch of bad words. He was an effing something.
The humpback day?
A day, yeah. You were on the boat too, right?
Yeah, that was bad.
Yeah, I was so mad, and I remember when my wife was looking at me, and she was like, "Slater, there's people on the boat." I was like, "I don't even care at this point. Like,
Yeah.
you're an effing idiot."
The
Like,
passengers barely know this, which is weird.
oh, they were
It's
just like, "Huh, what happened?" And then I put my
happened?
drone
Yeah,
up.
but all of us who were paying attention, like me and Slater, were like,
I
that
told
just
I
happened.
we were all in the wheelhouse. I was like, "He's gonna hit a whale," and like, sure enough, boom! Like,
That's what we're all doing. We're like, slow down, and the next thing you know, he actually hits the whale. We're like, a calf out of all whales, you know? It's like, come on.
Yeah.
all right.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks,
good
friends,
question.
for listening. Thank you for following us on social media. We're over 4,000 followers on Instagram now. Also, thank you to your support. For those of you that are on our Patreon, we really appreciate it.
Thanks,
We hope
guys.
we hope you're enjoying the content on there as well. Yeah, thanks.
See you in the
Bye,
next
everyone.
episode.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.